Hi everyone, today we are going to be creating paper mosaics. Mosaics are a traditional art form where an artist uses small tiles glued next to each other to make a picture. No one has tiles at home, so we're going to be using paper to create this technique. Here are 3 different examples of paper mosaics that I have made. This one is a mask made with torn paper. This is a very simple abstract one, also made with torn paper, didn't even use the scissors. And this is the one I'm going to be demonstrating today. For this project, you are going to need construction paper, whichever colors you have around, a glue stick, and a scissors. A Sharpie is optional, so follow along as we make these paper mosaics. Today we are going to be learning about paper mosaics. So here is a paper mosaic that I did in school with, I think, my first graders. And I love this paper mosaic because if you are a younger learner, it couldn't be more simple to do. I only used the scissors to cut out the red circle, and all of the other pieces were just ripped out. And that is on purpose because when you rip the edges, you get that nice, fuzzy, uneven look. And I love how that looks. Here is another example, a close-up of a paper mosaic. This was done by a 7th grader, but they were still using ripped paper on purpose to get a fuzzy edge. So if you are in kindergarten or 1st or 2nd grade and you want to try making a paper mosaic, go ahead, just try to make a rainbow and you can just rip the pieces of paper with your hand. If you are a little bit older or if you are up for a bigger challenge, I'm going to be demonstrating today a paper mosaic like this. This is a piece of fruit, and this is a paper mosaic with cut pieces of paper. Now, something to notice about this, all the pieces of paper are cut, so they have those nice sharp edges, but they're not all the same size, okay? So inside my watermelon, I have mostly squares, but in my background, I have these long rectangles. So you don't necessarily have to use one shape for your paper mosaics. So I'm going to start my paper mosaics with a square piece of paper, and I actually like not using white because some of this background is going to show, and it just looks a little bit nicer if it's a color. So for this, I'm using brown. On this paper, I used, it's hard to tell, but it's actually beige paper. If you have any paper grocery bags, that would be a great color to use for paper mosaics. You can just cut one of those bags into a square. So I'm going to start, this is going to be my strawberry paper mosaics, and I'm going to start by drawing 2 strawberries. This one is going to be going a little off the page. And then I'm going to have another one on the other side. And now I am going to go ahead and draw the tops of my strawberries. So in this one, I'm going to draw, you know what those kind of pointy strawberry leaves look like. And then over here, and I am actually going to leave these lines visible. So you can go ahead and trace those lines even thicker if you want because they are going to show. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut out some paper pieces. So I have already selected some colors here. So inside of my strawberry, I'm going to use these reds and pinks. And then in the leaves, I'm going to use some greens. And in the background, I'm going to use some blues and turquoise. So I am going to start cutting some pieces for inside my strawberry. So what I like to do is I like to hold a few pieces together and then I can cut them into a strip. And once I have that strip, I can go ahead and cut those into squares. And those are actually looking a little fat to me, so this strip, I'm gonna go cut it in half again to make it even thinner. And then I am gonna go ahead and cut some of those pieces into even smaller squares. For my background for this, I think I'm also going to stick with strips of paper, like rectangles instead of squares. So the rest of this is just going to be cutting and gluing. So I am going to build it up right now while you guys are watching, but speed it up so you don't have to be bored watching me spend so much time with my glue stick. So follow along as I glue everything together. Okay, so my strawberry paper mosaic is almost complete. One thing to notice is I purposely leave a tiny bit of space in between each piece of paper to create that mosaic look. When you're using tiles to make real mosaics, you put it in something called grout, which is like concrete, and that shows through. So I purposely left spaces so that you can see that background paper, but you can also choose not to leave any space and have all the papers overlap. That's just another look and it will still look awesome. The only other thing I did off camera was I took my black marker and I kind of just retraced my outlines. My paper is done, but to make it look a little bit more professional, I'm just gonna mount it on another piece of construction paper. So I am just going to turn it over, put a little glue on the back. Mount it right on the front there. And now my paper mosaic is complete. So you can see there's really different levels of challenge. By the way, this took about 45 minutes to complete. Something more simple like this will probably only take about half of that time. So challenge yourself and see what type of paper mosaic you can come up with today.